Welcome to The Hypnotist, the show that gives you inside access to cutting-edge hypnosis with real clients facing genuine issues. Brought to you by the hypnotherapist demanded by celebrities, CEOs, and even royalty, Adam Cox. These recordings took place live from Adam's clinic in London's world-famous Harley Street. This podcast features powerful hypnosis, so do not listen while driving or operating machinery. This recording is not suitable for those with epilepsy or severe mental health issues. So, get yourself comfortable and enjoy today's episode of The Hypnotist.
Hi, it's Adam here, and in this episode of The Hypnotist, you'll be listening to a hypnosis session for a client that was the victim of an attempted robbery. Effectively, there was a very emotive moment that could have gone very badly. Luckily, it didn't, but it was still very traumatic because it got the client thinking of all the things that could have happened as a consequence and what should they have done differently. So what you'll hear in this hypnosis session is a variety of things. There's an element of disassociation, so taking to her a place that she associates with freedom and relaxation, which for her was running. You'll also hear an effort to look at the event that happened in a way that desensitizes it. And there's two key ways in this session that you'll hear how the desensitization takes place. One is an element of disassociation, so viewing it like a witness. And in this particular case, I use a tool to make it not even a human witness, to really get the emotion all the way down. And then also certain principles of EMDR, or also IEMT, which is a process of lateral eye movement that is proven in many peer-reviewed studies to reduce feelings of anxiety and trauma related to a particular memory. So there's a tool that I use within the hypnosis session to facilitate that. And then also when people replay memories in their mind, it's normally because the unconscious is desperately trying to learn something positive from that event. What can happen though is that people can arrive at a conclusion which isn't true, and then that can create a new belief system which can be really disempowering. So if someone's robbed, for example, they could easily create the belief system that they are unsafe, that there are threats constantly around them, and that would be very disempowering. What you'll hear in this hypnosis session is a way of allowing the client to perceive that this was a near miss, that it could have been a lot worse, and therefore there's an opportunity to learn a lot from this that actually reduces the probability of future bad events happening, which is obviously a more empowering belief system. She also had this feeling of being trapped. And when she was trapped, it wasn't that she was physically trapped, it's that she had anxiety symptoms that wouldn't go away by her choosing. And therefore, when she said she was trapped, it was like she was trapped in her own body because she couldn't escape those feelings. So you'll also hear a way of reducing the intensity of those feelings that she linked to being trapped by linking them to the idea of being freedom. And freedom is linked to choices. And once she knows that she has choices that she can make about how she breathes and how she thinks and how she has her body, that then actually creates a self-fulfilling prophecy where, because the anxiety symptoms go down, there's now no desire to escape a trapped body because it's a body that she actually feels comfortable and free being in anyway. Trauma is a very unique experience. What can be traumatic to one person can mean nothing to someone else. It really depends on the individual and the meanings they attribute to that moment. The important thing to realize is that there's been a lot of progress in the world of dealing with trauma, and it's not a foregone conclusion that just because something bad happens, it means that you have to live with trauma for the rest of your life. There are many different techniques and tools that can reduce feelings of anxiety, to treat things like PTSD, lots of things that are very, very effective. So if you're listening to this and you are still dealing with the aftermath of a traumatic event, just know that help is out there. And if you think that I might be a possible source of help, there will be a link in the show notes that you can book a free 30-minute call with me to explore working with me. But you might find that this hypnosis session helps anyway. So find a quiet place that you won't be disturbed relax, and enjoy the session. Take a deep breath in. As you breathe in a feeling of relaxation. And as you exhale, just give permission for your body to release feelings of tension in your outward breath. That's it. Notice that with your eyes closed, you can give more of your attention to the sound of my voice. As you focus on the sound of my voice, your breathing can slow down, and you can position your body in such a way that you become even more comfortable. You may notice feelings of tension around your neck or your shoulders, maybe around your forehead. And as you breathe in, imagine breathing in such a wonderful feeling of calm and relaxation, and allow that to go into your lungs and be distributed to those parts of your body where you feel tense. That warm feeling of calm and relaxation is melting away feelings of tension in your body, enabling you to breathe deeper, enabling you to relax any tension in your face, feeling that relaxation in your neck and your shoulders, arms feeling heavier, eyes feeling so heavy and that even if you wanted to open them, they have no desire to open. Here, while you're feeling relaxed, you have the ability to make changes to your unconscious mind. So much of what you do is on autopilot. You don't think about blinking. You don't think about breathing. And when you're walking, you don't think about walking. And because so much of what you do is on autopilot, sometimes some of these things that we do automatically aren't useful. They're just echoes of things that we've done so many times that we can do them without thinking. And I want you to imagine that you can even run without thinking. I want you to use the power of your imagination to imagine a beautiful river and a path by the side of that river. And I want you to imagine the feeling of freedom that you get by running by the side of that river. Running requires conscious thought only to decide to do it. When you're doing it because you've done it before, your mind knows how to do it without thinking. So you could be listening to music or get lost in your own thoughts while you're running and not even think about what your legs and your arms are doing in order to run. It can happen all by itself. And as you're running by this river, I want you to notice that every now and then you see objects floating in the river. Maybe a stick, maybe a leaf, maybe something else. And notice that they're temporary. The current will just take them. You may notice them for a few seconds and then they're gone. And isn't that the case with thoughts? Any thought that pops into your mind is like a branch on a river. It will be there for a moment and then will be taken away with the current. You keep walking by the river, feeling a sense of freedom and a sense of feeling connected to your body, feeling at home in your body, that this is a place that you want to be, not that you have to be. I want you to see that there is a bridge up ahead, a beautiful bridge. I want you to imagine that you're running across the bridge, and then you stop where the bridge enables you to see the river. And I want you to look at the patterns of current in the river and notice just how hypnotic they are. The ripples of the water make shapes and movements, and as you focus on those shapes and movements, you start to get lost in your own imagination. And I want you to imagine that you're going back to a moment, but you're going back to a moment as an observer. I want you to imagine that you are going back as if you're a flying camera. Your physical body isn't going back to a moment, it's just the ability to observe a moment. Maybe a high-tech drone that takes you back to a moment. And your imagination can tell you what that drone is recording. And I want you to observe a moment where something happened that shook you, that distressed you, that made you feel unsafe. In your imagination, you can see the footage of this drone camera filming what happened. And I want you to play it from the beginning to the end. But as you do that, I want you to imagine there is a glowing dot, perhaps a bright red dot, on the screen that you can see this footage. And it's just pulsating from left to right and then right to left, almost like a ping pong ball going back and forth from left to right. And I want you to see this traumatic moment as an observer, but also as your eye just focuses on this red dot that goes from left to right, from left to right. And I want you to accept that as you watch that going left to right, knowing what's happening, but allowing your eyes to follow from left to right and back again, bouncing from left to right, that it is releasing any emotions connected to this memory. And as that happens, all feelings of anxiety, of tension, of stress, of fear just drain away from that emotion. I want you to imagine that in your life you've heard a joke, and the first time you heard the joke, it was funny. And maybe the second time it made you smile, and the third time it had no impact on you at all. I want you to imagine that this memory is similar. As you now watch it again, see the red dot go from left to right. It's having even less emotional impact than the time before, enabling you to look at it impartially, unemotionally. You could look at what happened just as a matter of fact. Certain things happened that weren't good, but you feel nothing by it. Watch it one more time from beginning to end. You're just the observer and see that red dot going from left to right. But now speed up the speed at which that left and right goes. Still knowing that the memory is happening behind it. And notice that even if you try and access feelings of anxiety, even if you try and feel scared in that moment, in that memory, you can't. The harder you try, the more elusive the fear is. Almost like you've been completely desensitized to this moment. And now watch it without that red dot from left to right and notice that the emotion still isn't there. You can now watch this memory back in a really calm way with one objective, and that is to look for clues as to what you could do differently in the future to avoid and mitigate undesirable things happening. The purpose of replaying something in your mind is an intuitive strategy to extract wisdom. But wisdom is only wisdom if you learn the right lesson. Many people encounter one unfortunate event and then generalize that to believe that many more unfortunate events are now more likely. And that, of course, is not true. I want you to look at this event and arrive at the conclusion that this was a near miss, that this event could have been much worse. But because it was the way that it was, means that you get all of the value, all of the lessons, all of the wisdom from this memory without dealing with what could have been much worse consequences. And in doing so, you are reducing the probability of those much worse consequences happening in the future because you're wiser for this experience. I want you to imagine that you are now the director. I want you to rewind this memory to the beginning and now play it back as you would want it to have happened. And maybe you do something so that what did happen didn't even happen. You preempted it just by your choices that led up to that moment. Observe yourself reliving that moment, taking all of this wisdom and seeing how events would have unfolded had you not. And when you did different things, the cause and effect relationship means that different things happened. And if you can learn that in this moment, you can learn that in any future moments. And in doing so, you are safer in the future. You're freer in the future. I want you to imagine that you're now observing a future version of you. A future version of you where you get to see all those things that could have gone wrong that you've now avoided because you're on this timeline instead of a different timeline. That in a strange way, your future has less possibility of bad things happening as a direct result of this near miss. And I want you to look at all the things that it's possible that you can avoid as a direct consequence of extracting the wisdom from this moment. And notice that maybe this wasn't an unfortunate event, but in the big scheme of things, it's possible that this is even a gift, a blessing, a near miss that avoids bigger and worse events happening in the future. And if your unconscious mind is happy to accept that new evaluation and this new distance perspective on this moment, let me know by nodding your head. And I want you to see how you will be over the next few days and weeks and months. That even if people ask, are you okay? See yourself observing a different version of you that is just confident, refusing to be intimidated, refusing to be shaken. A strong, confident version of you that won't let one moment that you live in fear, because you are wiser now. You are stronger now. And see how you will be in the next few days and weeks when you're parking your car, when you're doing your errands, when you're going to places you don't normally go to. Observe a version of you that is the right balance of vigilance and confidence. Some people are vigilant but anxious, which isn't good. And some people are completely apathetic, but then at more risk. And see that future version of you having the ideal balance. You're confident, you're relaxed, but also you're aware. And because you're aware, you can be cautious when you need to be cautious, but that doesn't mean you need to be afraid. And if you can see that version of you living the next few days and weeks and months in this way, living the quality of life that you want, and being able to handle situations in the way that you want to handle situations, let me know by nodding your head. It's now time to return to that version of you on the bridge, still lost in the shapes and patterns in the current of the river. I want you to imagine that everything is temporary. I want you to go to the side of the bridge where the current is flowing from. And I want you to imagine that you have a stick in your hand, and I want you to throw the stick there into the river, and then go to the opposite side of the bridge, and then see the stick just flow by. And from this point forward, I want your unconscious mind to accept the idea that every thought and every emotion is temporary. So if there's an unpleasant thought or emotion, you can know that this won't last very long anyway. It will flow away like a stick being taken by the current in a river. But also, if you have a wonderful emotion, it will encourage your unconscious mind to really appreciate that wonderful emotion, because also that won't last either. But when you give attention to your wonderful experiences and wonderful emotions, you can recall them easier in the future. And when less desirable emotions or thoughts come to mind, you can give them no mind at all. It's not worthy of your attention. You just know that it will flow on by. which means you're building a bank of wonderful memories and allowing anything undesirable or unpleasant to just be something that's easily forgotten. In fact, now that you've taken the value from this moment that may have been stressful or unpleasant, there's very little need to go back to that memory. So just imagine that it's floating down the river like a stick in the current. And although you can choose to go back to that memory, you will observe it like you're observing it from a futuristic remote camera, and only from the perspective of seeing if there's more insight to take from that moment. And the moment that your unconscious mind evaluates that there is no more value in going back to that memory, then why would you need to go back to a memory? It served its purpose. It's made you wiser and stronger and more prepared for the future. Allow this to be a gift from the world to your unconscious mind to help you be better prepared. And then just decide to not pay it any attention anymore. If your unconscious mind is happy with that evaluation, let me know by nodding your head. That's it. And now it's time to return to jogging and find yourself jogging and running back over the bridge by the side of the river, down a pathway, and I want you to get a sense of freedom. And then I want you to find a bench by the side of the river. And I want you to imagine that you're feeling trapped on this bench. You don't know why, but there's a feeling of feeling trapped in that moment. And I want you to accept the suggestion that as you relax your breathing and breathe out deeply and breathe in deeply, any feelings of being trapped goes away. That if you evaluate that your muscles are tense around your neck or your shoulders, by choosing to release that tension in your outward breath, that also goes away. Any thoughts in your mind, even though you know they're temporary, you can choose to think something else, and that displaces the previous thought, and that goes away. And notice that when you change your thoughts, your muscle tension and your breathing, the feeling of being trapped completely goes away, and you feel free again as you continue jogging by the side of the river, tapping into a feeling of freedom, vibrancy, health and vitality as you return to the present with all parts of you in this moment, but taking all those wonderful changes with you. Take a deep breath in through your nose and out through your nose. Just wiggle your fingers, wiggle your toes. Really connect with being in your body in the present right now and tap into that feeling of freedom and relaxation and wisdom. As I now count from 1 to 10, to awaken you, you will awaken feeling wonderful and feeling grateful for that near miss. Starting to count to awaken you. 1, 2, 3, waking up. 4, 5, 6, more alert. 7, 8, open your eyes, open your eyes. 9, 10, wide awake, wide awake, wide awake.
Thank you for listening to The Hypnotist with Adam Cox, the show that gives you inside access to cutting-edge hypnosis with real clients facing genuine issues. To automatically receive the latest episodes, please subscribe. If you'd like to support the show, please share this episode with just one friend you think it could help. And if this episode helped you, please leave us a 5-star review.